Just ahead on American Black Journal, a longtime dream to provide healthy food options for Detroiters is finally coming true for a local African-American entrepreneur. We're going to tell you about the new grocery store that's coming to the city. Plus, a Detroit restaurant owner talks about keeping her business alive and thriving. And we're going to have a wide-ranging conversation with popular Detroit bassist Marion Hayden. Stay right there. American Black Journal starts right now.
From Delta faucets to Behr paint, Masco Corporation is proud to deliver products that enhance the way consumers all over the world experience and enjoy their living spaces. Masco, serving Michigan communities since 1929. Support also provided by the Cynthia and Edsel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV.
The DTE Foundation proudly supports 50 years of American Black Journal in covering African American history, culture, and politics. The DTE Foundation and American Black Journal partners in presenting African American perspectives about our communities and in our world.
Also brought to you by Nissan Foundation and viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. It's hard to believe, but the city of Detroit has not had a Black-owned grocery store for nearly a decade. And that is going to soon change. African-American entrepreneur Raphael Wright is opening neighborhood grocery on the city's east side in the Jefferson-Chalmers community. The full-service grocery is partially funded through a profit-sharing model that allows residents to invest in the project. BridgeDetroit's Orlando Bailey met up with Wright to talk about his desire to provide healthy food in a convenient location for Detroiters.
And of course, you can't be Detroit without Germac showing up. Tell me, how does it feel to sit in a physical manifestation of something that started up here?
I didn't know how to get from A to Z in doing this, and to see that I'm, almost at Z is a beautiful thing.
Take me back to the beginning. How did all of this start?
I wanted to get into community development, and I wanted to get into cooperative economic models. I wanted to, build a business with other people. The bag is cheaper when a bunch of people is in it. So I wanted to share this opportunity and collectively build. Looking at food and community development, you can't build a community without food. Mm-hmm. Grocery is an anchor for communities, and it's a need. It's life or death. It's not a mechanism. It's not a gimmick. Every solvent community has food in it that will sustain you. So anything outside of that is moving backwards.
You are getting ready to join, I think, a small elite group of Detroiters by opening a grocery store that is Black owned. How long has it been?
2014 was the last Black owned grocer in the city. So it's been a long time. But before that, there was a huge flight. So, he was the last, Metro Foodland was the store's name. Before that, we had maybe another Black owned grocer. So for 30-something years, we only had two grocers that were of color.
Talk about the need that you saw in Detroit and how Detroit got to such a place where, McDonald's is more accessible, Coney Island is more accessible than a fresh food grocer.
We've always just deemed it as a poor person's thing. 70% of the city of Detroit is food insecure. So that covers all the poor people and some of the folks that are affluent as well. It's not about money, it's about time, it's about experience, expertise. A lot of us don't know how to cook. So even if we bought food, we wasting it. So food waste is equally as high as food insecurity. We are in the center of many fights, civil rights and equal pay, or just being treated the way that we supposed to be getting treated as humans in a country that promotes that. Again, we can't do that off McDonald's. The march that we have to, participate in requires you to have energy. It requires you to be healthy or at least full and whole. And Coney Island is not going to satisfy that. You know what I'm saying? You need fruits and vegetables.
Talk about where the store is in relationship to where you grew up.
I grew up not, 5 minutes away from this store. This is a dream come true because we didn't think that we could be as close to water as we are, growing up where I came up, you know what I mean? So being close to the water, being close to Grosse Pointe, I'm in a very unique spot, that I can really service everybody.
So it's like 5 or 6 varieties of tomatoes. These are heirlooms here.
You have equity investors from all over.
Anybody that's a Michigander can invest in this project with a high priority or, high emphasis on being from the city or the neighborhood. So there's no longer just a donation element. You can also be an investor. We own this store. This is our store. This is not just mine. I'm just the manager. Many of these are, black owned as well. This is a black owned brand, a sauce.
Lorraine's premium barbecue sauce, sweet and smoky.
A healthier variety at that. The ingredients are intentional.
Give us a little bit of a preview as to what the shelves will look like.
I'm emphasizing hyper local. So I want as many Detroit or Michigan brands on the shelves as possible because that's how you make the state strong. That's how you make the city strong, and that's how we can circulate our dollars in a way that will keep us running. The name Neighborhood Grocery is a reflection of my place in the area. So I want to be in the neighborhood. I don't want to be on the outskirts of the suburb, city border. I don't want to be, necessarily on the main street. I want to be in the neighborhood. So the name is a reflection of that. Groceries in, urban cities don't have the best, relationship at times, given the type of grocery stores that we have. So I just want to put a fresh coat of paint on that reputation.
Being born and raised in the city of Detroit, we often tangle with this narrative that in order to be a success, you have to escape the city. But you decided to stay in the city after high school. Why?
I saw the morale and just the energy of the city be sucked out. But I also seen it resurrect. And that's what changed me. I was straight, let me get some money and just take care of myself. But I started to see the synergy reemerge and people caring about other people. And then I started caring about other people and said, no, I need to stay here now. I think that I would not have been able to come up with what I've come up with over the years if I would have left. Me staying here was the best thing that happened to me.
Providing healthy food for Detroit residents is also a passion of entrepreneur Quiana Broden, better known as Q. Her Detroit restaurant is called The Kitchen. Broden promotes the benefits of plant-based eating with vegan and vegetarian meals. One Detroit's Will Glover sat down with her to talk about the restaurant business, surviving the COVID pandemic, and helping Detroiters eat healthier.
One of the things that I hear a lot about working as a small business owner in Southeast Michigan, in Detroit, is that there is a community of partnership and essentially an ability and a want for people in this business environment to help each other out. Is that something that you've experienced when running your business, when getting started, when you come up against an obstacle that you need a solution for? How has the business community in Southeast Michigan, in Detroit, been there?
I will say that everybody I've come in contact with, I don't know if I'm just blessed to meet the nicest people. People are very caring. They're very warm, welcoming, and they give you information. So if I know I'm trying to do something different that I wouldn't normally do, I'm not good at no either. So when people say no to me, that just means I'm talking to the wrong person. So I will go to people who will help me get the information that I need because I don't know everything. But I also think vice versa, the things that are working for me, I share it with the people that were in my circle. So and honestly, the people in Detroit, we're like open books to each other because the thing about it is, what is the purpose of me having this information? I die with the information. It's just going to die with me. Why would I not want to share that?
Right.
And so I'm very big on that. And I'm also very big on keeping a circle of people around me that we're sharing because we should all win. There's enough for all of us to win. In my mind, I don't I don't look at other restaurateurs as competition. I don't have competition. My competition is I'm my own competition, not everybody else. We should all be able to win. And if I'm doing something that's working for me and it makes me successful, why would I not want to tell you so you can be successful too?
How has the development that's happening down here, how do you feel about it? When it comes to the development, are you excited about it? Are there concerns? Is there any trepidation? Where do you feel like you fit in?
I'm always looking at the positive. When I say I always look at the positive, there is no negative for me because the negative is a waste of energy. So for my brain, I'm always looking at my mission, my purpose. If I know who my clients are, how do I market to those customers? When I opened right here on Woodward, there was nobody else. There was like a clothing store. It was nothing. This was a block that was not, there was no gentrification, okay? It was like, Q, why would you want to put this right here? Girl, because my brain said healthy food in every hood. People should not get food based off of their zip code. They should get food because it should be their human right. So my focus is always, how do I make this food more available? So in my mind, just as fast as you see, every time you see a McDonald's in my head in the future, you're gonna see a kitchen because the goal is to put healthy food everywhere because we have to be the people to change the perception of what it is. So I'm very glad that they're bringing things back to the city. I'm glad that they're allowing the people that are from the city to actually get these locations as well. There are different, associations that like are always, they're always pushing for you to support the people who are local, allow them to get into some of the places for us. Like you got the Metro Detroit Black Business Association. Like they're always for the small business owner. And that's a cool backing to have. But again, you make these allies with the people that are going to help you keep growing and you keep building. So for me, I like the community and the way it is now, but I also like that we are getting to see more, but you can't make your whole business focused on if everybody else is on the block. It's how am I going to bring clients to my location?
The biggest challenge that Southeast Michigan is facing, a big challenge that Detroit is facing, all metropolitan areas are facing, is how do we get millennials and anyone who wants to start a business or anyone who wants to be a part of the workforce to come to Southeast Michigan, to come do it in places like Detroit?
So my focus, again, it's going to be my mission and my purpose, but it's also like families. What do people do as a family? What do people do to get back to the table? So my brain wants to do things to bring people here. So like for us, we do cooking classes that you can bring all age. We have to get people out of their houses. And we also have to stop pushing fear on people. You got to think about what people are at home looking at when they're on the news. You can't come to Detroit because of this. Yes, we're changing their perspective of it, but I think people just need to see like, it's a really family-oriented place. There's things for you to do. You can come out and eat at all the restaurants, or if you're a person that has a business idea, don't sit on it, but create programs that have them where they can come and sit with people who are business owners like me, like, hey, you got a business idea? Let's sit and work with you on a business plan. Let's get you from plan A to B to C. Like, what does that look like? And make it more, and it's not to say that there are not programs like that out there, but I think we need to talk about it more. As much as we can talk about negative things, if we talked about those type of things, I think it would pique the interest of people that are not here in Detroit, because you get people that from out. I have people that would say, I'm leaving New York to move to Detroit. So you get but what about the people that are here? I'm always saying, look in your own backyard. Look around the city of Detroit, all the places that people are when people were in the city and they moved to the suburbs. And now why do we want them to come back? Put the same thing, the same amenities that are in the suburbs in the city of Detroit. I shouldn't have to go to the suburbs to find a healthy grocery store. I'm super excited that they brought more, they're bringing more grocery stores to Detroit, but Detroit is large. We should all have the same accessibility to healthy food. How do I make that become like the squeaky wheel gets the oil? Like I tell people that come to my classes, like if you don't open your mouth, closed mouths don't get fed. If you don't open your mouth and tell your neighborhood, hey, at every gas station in the corner, I want you to stop just giving us chips and cookies. Give us healthy food. Until we make the noise, it's not going to change.
There were more than 60 live performances for music lovers at this year's Detroit Jazz Festival over the Labor Day weekend. Detroit bassist Marion Hayden, one of my favorites, was among the musicians entertaining festival goers. She is well known as an educator, a Kresge Arts Fellow, and university jazz lecturer. Plus, she is the co-founder of the popular all-female band Straight Ahead. Cecelia Sharpe of 90.9 WRCJ sat down with Hayden to talk about her introduction to music, and Detroit's really rich jazz culture.
2, 1, 2, 3. Marion, you are definitely a trailblazer, a role model to so many here in Detroit and abroad. I think that we should talk about your journey and how you got started. So many of us look to you as that role model, but I would like to know, and maybe our audience would like to know, how you were introduced to music.
Wow, that's a great question. Well, one of the things I like to always say is that parents must play music for their children. And I was really, really very fortunate that my parents were both music lovers. My dad was actually a kind of a closeted piano player. He was actually really, really good, but he didn't really want folks to know. But every once in a while, he'd sit down and play the blues, and it was just fabulous. My parents were Herbert Hayden and Marion Ford Hayden, and later Thomas, because after my dad passed, my mom got remarried. But they were both just really big lovers of music. So my dad was a huge jazz lover. He had all kinds of jazz records that he listened to and that I accessed. They were just in the sphere of our house all the time. Just Miles Davis and Oscar Peterson just floating through the airwaves. And my mother was more of a lover of more of a classic American songbook. So I remember that she had a record of Gershwin's music, and she used to play Gershwin around the house all the time. And so there was always just a lot of music to be absorbed for me as a young person. And so by the time I finally got to be the age of 8 or 9, when I was in my little elementary school, and they asked me if I wanted to play an instrument, and cello was a possibility because I was kind of a tall girl, and I couldn't see myself playing a little violin. Love those, but I needed something bigger. And as soon as I got that cello, I was back at the house actually trying to play some jazz on the cello. And then finally, when I figured out that it was going to be a little hard to do, and I got a bass, because actually I wanted a bass first, but they didn't have any small basses. But when I got big enough to play bass, which was about 12, then I just took my bass to the basement and started playing along with records, because that was the music that was in my ear, and I just loved it so much. So that's really how I got started. During that time, we have really good public school music education which I think we still have really great Detroit public school music education. It's just that we don't fund it as well. But during those times, it was funded really well. We have excellent Detroit public school music teachers. I loved my music teachers. They were awesome. They just gave us so many really great opportunities. They were so passionate about what they did. And the ones that I know now that are in school are still very, very passionate. They just need to be supported better.
We also know that Detroit has a rich, deeply steeped and deeply rich jazz culture here. Can you talk about how the jazz culture in Detroit influenced you as a musician?
Oh, yes. I'm always glad to talk about that. Well, especially I'll just say this one, in the playing of my instrument in particular, it's really important to have really good foundational training, and which when I think about it, I think classical training is really good for that, because you're going to get all kinds of really great technical information. You're going to learn how to read. You're going to learn how to play up and down properly in the positions, to play correct intonation, and just address the bass properly, so that you don't have poor problems with bad posture and those kinds of things. But when it gets to jazz, you really do need to be able to hook into the community that plays it. And so luckily Detroit has had such a rich and expansive community of players in so many genres of the music too. I mean, I'm talking, ragtime, New Orleans, early bebop, more hard bop, all the different more avant-garde free jazz, just so many different ways, so many different genres of the music, and so many different ways that people play.
You definitely are a part of Detroit's Jazz Foundation. One of those things being the all-female jazz ensemble Straight Ahead, which you are co-founder of. Can you talk about forming Straight Ahead and what that meant to women in jazz music at that time and what it means for women today, how that has impacted women today?
Well, I'm always glad to talk about my sisters and the great group Straight Ahead. For so many people, they had not really seen women really out there playing instruments. Occasionally, you would see, you might, if you go to church, you may see some women as pianists, perhaps some concert pianists, but very rarely did you see them as in jazz as much as we would like. They weren't rare, but you just didn't see them as much. And in terms of women playing things like drums and bass, rarely, you just did not see it. People would come up to me and said, I brought my daughter because I really think that she has to see what women can do, that a little girl can do whatever she wants to. And so that really made us feel really good. And it continues to be so now. People still come up and say, they bring their sons as well, because frankly, young men need to see the same thing. They need to continue to see women as colleagues, across the board colleagues in this business.
I know that you value music education and passing on your wisdom and knowledge to others. Can you talk about what the future of jazz in Detroit looks like to you?
I think the future of jazz in Detroit is really looking completely rosy. So great. I know I'll just say this, that a lot of the nuts and bolts of jazz education has gone from the community where it was when I first learned into academic institutions, and there's some really great things that are happening there in terms of giving young musicians a good baseline of knowledge and giving them time to really work on their craft, hone their craft technically on their instrument, and getting some really good information about improvisation. And then really luckily we still have a really active community of musicians that lives here. So once they get that information, they can take that back out into the community and really engage with each other and with those of us who are more experienced in really learning what this music is actually all about.
That's going to do it for us this week. Thanks for watching. You can find out more about our guests at AmericanBlackJournal.org. Plus, you can connect with us anytime on social media. We're going to leave you now with a performance by singer and songwriter Lali Mariah from Detroit Performs, live from Marygrove. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
By me on the way to another lifetime. I mustn't think that they left me lonely, because they're in my heart, my mind, my soul, my style, my rhymes. Oh. Shout out to the elders who told me the truth about you, what I should do and not do. All the dumb mistakes they wish they never made, the obstacles they had to face, but it got better in time. The light at the end of the tunnel is crystal clear. Young ones don't wanna look because they fear the end is near, but the end is the beginning. When you're enlightened, you are winning. So the OGs whisper, open your eyes, it's brighter on the other side. Memories of the loved ones who once passed by me. On the way to another lifetime, I mustn't think that they left me lonely, because they're in my heart, my mind, my soul, my style, my rhymes. I cannot pretend that life's a fairy tale, or like I did this by myself. No, searching for the light from within, I traveled on a past with them, and this is how it went. Story shared with musical rhythm, spoke to my soul on a spiritual mission. They said, listen now and lead tomorrow.
From Delta Faucets to Behr Paint, Masco Corporation is proud to deliver products that enhance the way consumers all over the world experience and enjoy their living spaces. Masco, serving Michigan communities since 1929. Support also provided by the Cynthia and Edsel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV.
The DTE Foundation proudly supports 50 years of American Black Journal in covering African American history, culture, and politics. The DTE Foundation and American Black Journal, partners in presenting African American perspectives about our communities and in our world.
Also brought to you by Nissan Foundation and viewers like you. Thank you.